you've gone into. Okay. Most of the people who come to us thinking that we are going to stop the anxiety forever. No, what we are doing is to reduce the levels of anxiety so that they can cope and function in their lives. Moses, I want to get back to you. So what was the question again you asked?
Yeah, the question was precisely how immigrants can be helped not to be overwhelmed by such anxiety attacks, okay, to this level, or even getting into anxiety-oriented situations. So I think the core idea is to help them find a line before things get worse, if I may just make it very precise.
Yeah. So before things get worse, you can help yourself in different ways. You have to look at your thoughts. What are you thinking? For example, you are in a post-immigration, you're here, you are unemployed, okay? You don't have any housing. So the hot thought now which comes in is, I'll never get a house. I'm not British, I'll never get a house, you see? Or I'll never get a job. Or I don't have the education, you know? So that's the hot thought which is coming in. Once that hot thoughts get stuck in your mindset, now the feelings come with it, because you're thinking, how am I now going to buy food? So you start worrying. Then you start, getting anxious. And the next thing you do is you just sit back and decide, I think I'll call, let me call this person, maybe they'll help me with this. Then you call them and they say, no, we don't have any money. Okay. This situation just goes round and round and round until you actually lose it, because you're becoming too anxious. So I'm just giving examples of how we can change the way we think about things to help ourselves. So if you have a situation where you're not employed, try and get ways to get help. I mean, we are living in countries which support people who are unemployed, Try and find ways to think that, look, okay, I'm not employed, but I can do this or this. There are ways and organizations which can support you in achieving this. If you want education, you can go to libraries and they'll give you a guidance on how to reach where you want to reach. I had an example. I was looking at a clip of a certain lady who's in USA now. She has bought houses. She's Ugandan. I was looking at how is she buying all those houses? And she just started, she had nothing. She just went to free advice, financial advice. And they advise her how to, get a house without having even a penny. And that's how she started, things like that. So let's try and think positively and take out the negative side of things. And then that will change the way we feel, and it will change our behaviors and also.
Doctor, allow me look this question before you go ahead in that as well, because they seem to be in the same radius. Wes Huntington says, thanks for the program. He continues that I'm reliably informed that there are some Ugandans whose main work is to spy on their fellow illegal immigrants and then report them to Home Office. Then these immigrants get deported. My question is, what is your advice to the deported immigrant who is going through anxiety? And he also adds that what is your advice to those who cause their fellow Ugandans to go through such anxiety?
Okay. So there are two issues here. There's one who is being set back, being deported, and there's one who's causing others to be deported. Yeah. Am I understanding this right?
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So my focus now is more on this one who's being deported. The one who reports them, that's his issue. That's his job. He wants to do that. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend it. But he's causing a lot of harm and and a lot of havoc to whoever he's doing that to, because most of these people have left for a reason and they would like a better place to live in, and they're fighting to do that. So if you are reporting them and causing them to, sometimes people put allegations on you and actually they're not true, and people get deported without true information. So but if once they deport you, it's a very damaging situation. One thing you have to do is to accept the consequence. Okay. If things have gone that way, the problem with all of us is we try to deny the reality and we try to fight it, and you have to admit the consequences that you're actually being deported now, and that will help you to cope with the eventualities of that. Because once you get, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, someone is trying to call me. Let me try and see if I can decline. Okay, I'm back now. So once you try to fight it, you're actually creating now a negative thought, which is going to create more anxiety in you, because you'll be thinking, oh, what if I go through this lawyer, or if I go through this and this, and you see you've reached a point where things are not reversible anymore. So accepting it is one of the ways to actually cope with it. I hope I've answered the question. It's also actually it's part of the coping again for immigrants who are staying here and they're struggling with immigration. For example, there's a decision that you are supposed to wait until the immigration checks this and this and this. Some people are too impatient. They are getting, insecure and all. That's the time you have to accept what is going on and stay positive. Because worrying won't change the decisions, you see. Worrying just makes you even more unwell. But if you accept it.
Doctor, I think if I can just make an addition or submission to what you just said. This takes us back to people that go for testing, let's say HIV testing, yeah? And then you actually discover you are positive, yeah? The people that live in denial die very fast, because of the fact that they haven't accepted their fate. But the moment you accept your fate and know, okay, you know what, there's nothing I can do to reverse what has happened. So in that situation, all you need to do is do the right thing. And the right thing would be start on ARVs, eat healthy, try to live a healthy life, do some exercises and all that. And when you do that, you actually might end up living way longer than somebody that will not accept it and just stay in denial. Those really die usually at a very fast rate. So that is the same thing the doctor was trying to.
Thank you so much, Sami. Actually, the two, Dr. Robert and Samantha, bring a medical perspective, but I'll also add a social perspective.
Okay.
So many immigrants out there coming here with very huge titles, a very long chain of experiences. certain status, and before you know it, you're starting from scratch. And so
Exactly.
that acceptance, okay, that now the playing field is different. I've had several friends from different countries who are battling this. I've myself worked for some years as a cleaner. Yes, before I stepped up to a certain level, but I'm a professional chemist. So, but that acceptance, okay, that now this is what is ground. So I think that's exactly what you two are sharing, though from a medical perspective, but even from a social perspective. I've been a lawyer, I've been a doctor, but the reality is, this is where you are. I once got a pep talk from a Congolese friend. That was 2014 when I just come to know. If I paraphrase his words, he said, "Yeah, Moses, Norwegians believe and know that we immigrants, particularly Africans, we can be anything by just touch of the lip. You can say, I've been a minister in my country, I've worked in the president's office, I've been this." They know all that you can just create yourself before them as you want them to perceive you. But for them, they will not challenge you or speak, I mean, try to suffocate you or challenge you otherwise. But for them, they are more action oriented. So don't speak so much of what you can do, of who you, or rather of who you are. But when you ever get a chance to prove to them what you can do, grab it. Just keep it a profile. Don't tell them I'm so and so. What? They know you can be anything. From Africa, you can be anything. I'm a lawyer. I've been.
Moses, just like the saying goes, that action speaks louder than words. Don't talk. Just, like people who brag that, I'm rich, I have a lot of money. I always tell them, just dress nicely, dress expensive. Let me look at your watch. Let me look at your bling. I'll be like, wow, the person has money without you saying a word. You will have nice cologne on you. You will, it will speak for itself. You don't have to say anything. So yes, action speaks.
Actually, one was that around that very period, there was a certain Norwegian who sarcastically said that he's surprised that many Africans come into Norway under, you called it under the guise of political asylum. But surprisingly, when they invite people to join politics in Norway, I mean, he never sees them. So he wonders. So of course you could know what he was, portraying. But okay, his point was, okay, the point here is, Norwegians know that you can be anything. You can, by virtue of the lip. So his advice, that guy, Johnson, that keep a look of that when you're granted a chance to prove it, prove it. So I was only sharing a spot on denial and acceptance.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with you. The other also tricky bit is when we come here, a few years in here, we think we can be like people who have been here for years, or we'd like to be better than those who are back home. We like to build our status so quickly, and we start comparing our lives to other people's. This actually puts a lot of stress on immigrants.
Exactly.
Because once they get the first job, they think they can buy Mercedes-Benz. Yes, you buy it. But at what cost are you going to, maintain that? At the end, you have to give it back, So these are the issues which actually affect immigrants, and the mistakes they do when they come in these countries is, rather than having a low profile and building their lives bit by bit, they build a lot of debt on credit cards and all that, and then
they love to live beyond their means. Yes.
Exactly. And that creates anxiety by the big time. I had a friend who used to call me every month. He would call me and say, look, Rob, again, I mean, I'm falling short of my, can you give me this? Can you give me this amount? And I said, look, you have to deal with this. I can't be giving you money every month,
Yes.
Because
Doctor, that brings us back to, sorry to interject, but that excites me really when you talk about that, because recently I hosted a show where I'm talking about investment, back home. And then as bringing out the fact that we have Africans or immigrants that come here and start living a very, very poor and miserable life, to the extent that they go hungry, to the extent that they live in, you know, like just a one-roomed house that is shared among about 3 or 5 people, because they are spending all their money back home. So to me, I see that as absurd, because if I'm living here and I'm working so hard, you know, to earn the money, why wouldn't I make myself comfortable here? Let me live under a comfortable roof. Let me eat decently. And then the little saving that I could have, I can send back home. And now that is exactly what you're saying. And then I also talked about people who borrow. You know, you're just there and you live on borrowing. You're spending beyond your means. And Moses was, yes, I told people to stop borrowing women's money. And then they got to me that, you know, as hitting on some men. But yeah, it's a fact. Men out there like to borrow money in the guise of we're friends. And then when it comes to payback time, they never pay back, you know.
Absolutely.
Tami, speaking about that and looping it with what Dr. Ota is sharing, I want to quote Gabriel. He's a Nigerian friend we once hosted here. And when asked as to why Africans, okay, particularly it was Nigerians, live a certain kind of life, which doesn't match with the kind of establishments they invest or put up in Nigeria. So his argument was, he called it inadequacy, that they feel inadequate here. According to him, he suggested that the fact that they cannot pull up a certain status here, they choose to put up mansions in Nigeria. I mean, to occupy space, I mean, to earn that respect. Because here, you've probably failed to work yourself up to earn that social respect you deserve. So matching that with this, these remarks from Gabriel and what Dr. have just said, that these, in my understanding, mount into something and accumulate a lot of anxiety, because you want to prove a point to someone who you barely know what they're actually doing in their lives. You just have an illusion that they are looking up to you, they are competing with you. So you mounting an illusion, I mean, pressure based on an illusion, living 2 different sets of lives, because you feel here you fail to work up yourself. So you want to try to suffocate or intimidate someone. Back home. By, I mean,
that's a big,
so
that's a big trap most of us go through, because we now here, some of us have lived years here, and you look back home and say, what do I have home? And you decide to borrow a lot of money and pour it at home. But then you come here and you can't pay back that money. You are under pressure, you know, to pay it back. So it's pointless. Rather, I don't say don't invest at all. You can invest, but do it sensibly, you know, not creating states of anxiety unnecessarily. So if you have an agenda of ever living back home, why
Doctor,
not?
You'll excuse us that we kind of interrupt, but okay, this also loop in this. I would love you to share your thoughts on Luis Dante's submission here. He says, no need to be comfortable here when we are not comfortable home. We don't belong here. What would you respond to him? Because you're talking about anxiety, we're also talking about living a double life. Yes, what would be your thoughts?
There's no need of, again?
He says, no need to be comfortable here when we are not comfortable home. We don't, okay, we not belong here. Okay, I understand. Maybe he wrote, we don't belong here. So according to him, he suggests that there is no need to be comfortable. In my case, to be comfortable in no way when I'm not comfortable because I don't belong here. So I'm speaking for myself, trying to understand this question.
I think he's trying to hit back at what I said.
Exactly, and I'm asking Dr. Altaya to share his thoughts from both a social perspective as a Ugandan who has lived in Poland, London, and as an expert in psychiatry, discussing anxiety.
Okay.
So the issue here is a personal thing. Some of us are so connected to our homes that we would like to have something there, to go back to in future if we are old and have grandchildren and all that. So we start planning that. I have an uncle in USA who did that. He built his house and all that. And unfortunately, he died before he actually went to live there. But he did everything just to get that peace of mind, which I feel is okay because he was planning to come back. The problem we are having with most of us is, yes, we don't feel we belong here. And then we end up building huge mansions back home, which we don't even need, And you are there, for example, once in a year there. The mansion is occupied by people or family members who damage it, and that even causes more anxiety because you want to keep the mansion, safe and all that. But if you're doing it as part of a future investment, then that now reduces the anxiety because if you, for example, you're building a house and you decide it's not so big, so part of it you are renting it out and things like that, or you're doing some business with it, then you have an income coming in that country wherever you're going. But if you're loading all your money into a mansion which you're not living in and you're struggling here with maintaining running it and all that, then that's going to create anxiety in spite of thinking that you don't belong here. I hope I've answered the question.
Yes, I hope so.
Just to make a submission.
Yes.
Yes, Doctor, you've answered the question perfectly. And I just want to make a submission as well that home is where the heart is, yeah? It depends on what people assess as we don't belong here, yeah? So everyone has a different situation, a different scenario. Some people are actually based here, or some people's home is actually here, based on the fact that if you are married out here, or if you have family here, what's the point trying to set up something back home, and yet you clearly know you have no kids there, you have family there, your brothers and sisters and all that, but what's the point of you setting up a house or a home there that you know that no one will ever benefit from?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so if one has family here, you have your children here, you have your husband here, your wife here, then I would say live comfortably here, make your home comfortable here, and then back home, if need be, put up something small, something that you would go and relax in whenever you go for holidays every once in a while. But other than that, investing back home, it is really a two-way thing, depending on where you regard home as. Home is not entirely where you were born, but home is where the heart is. That is how I would summarize that.
Thank you so much, Samantha. I want to applaud you all and greet you all are watching on Facebook. Huntington Wesi, Fred Casilia, Irene Visaso also dropped here a comment. Very good topic, and we need to normalize mental health just like physical health, so that it isn't a taboo to talk about it. Then there was also an input from Fred Casilia, as I think somewhere, where I gave a case here. It says, good point. Sure, part of the therapy is if you're given a chance, proceed to prove your worth and more. I encourage colleagues to work twice as smart from what is expected of them. Yes, I've recently invented a phrase, according to Moses, what I've called the paradox of immigration. And this has been prompted by the ongoing wave in Scandinavia, and I've heard maybe in some other parts of Europe where a couple of immigrants having their residences or their permissions to stay are revoked. And this revocation, we have 3 segments of residences. Okay, I'll speak for Norway, maybe other countries. Temporary residence, permanent residence, and then citizenship. That's when one acquires a red passport. But when I say revoking, this encompasses all the 3. One would assume that as someone with a red passport, you're a Norwegian citizen, you're untouchable. So, but threats to revoke, I mean, encompasses all the 3. So in this case, I invent the phrase that the paradox of immigration. So as we speak of home and invest where you are, where you live most of your life, where you've established family, and try to be more realistic, not to live a double life. Of course, we've had this series where people encourage people not to invest so much back home, where they live for only 1 month. But here comes a situation where there's, I mean, agitating, the turbulence is shaking every standing block, including the would-be permanent structures, those having citizenship. And now I raise a concern here that as we've kept on encouraging people to invest more where they are, then how would be the phrase, or how would be the story or the inspirations when such a wave hits someone who has put all his eggs in one basket? And maybe there is a tsunami now coming in, changing all the tables, painting a different situation from what life paints. I'm picking this from what Samantha just shared, what the doctor has just shared, and what I've personally also encouraged people to do. But here comes the paradox. You believe that I'm here, and maybe there is a wave now coming up, showing you things otherwise. Merging this with anxiety and the social life and this reality, the paradox of immigration according to Moses, what would be our thoughts on this? Starting with you, Dr. Otaya.
Yeah, I'm always cautious of this because I look at wars and how people suffer during wars and what happens to their properties and things. Look at the World War, Second World War, where people lost all their, belongings and things, and people had to migrate and go to places where they've never been. So to me, this is the reality of this world. You could be here with everything and be with nothing the next day. And that's where we have to balance our lives. Yes, you can invest in these countries, but also think of where you come from and put something there in case anything happens to fall onto, We shouldn't put everything in one basket because you never know. Anything can happen in this world. We are looking at Putin now thinking of using nuclear weapons, and if they start pressing those buttons, we will have to leave these places because these will be their targets, really, And everyone will leave, whether you are British or not. Even the white British will leave. Now, if you have planned your life in a way that you could, still go back to Uganda and live there, that's a good way out of it. Rather going to a foreign country again and starting all over and suffering, through all this. So it's a matter of balance to me, and that's how that's how I lead my life. I try to balance, but not too much here, not too much there. Just balancing it so that it helps both ways.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Over to you, Samantha. Nyabo, what do you say?
What do I
about
say?
that paradox of immigration?
Of course, your paradox makes a lot of sense, yeah. And like you said, we should not put all our eggs in one basket. However, that also depends on what we are talking about in the scenario. And by that, I mean, I do not stop people from, investing or putting something back home. But like I said, I am against people that live miserably here because life is short. You don't know when you're going to die. Yeah. So I do encourage people to try and balance their life. Yeah. Balance your life in the sense that even today, when you go to sleep comfortably, have a blanket, have a roof over your head. Yeah. Have a decent meal. I discourage people that put in a lot because why are you working anyhow? If you're working day and night to simply, get all your money and send back home because you're trying to put up a house that you do not even know when you will be able to fully finish it. Yeah, because some people construct for 4 years before they actually finish up a structure. Yeah. So how about if it happens that here where you are, you're living miserably, you're going hungry, you have no car, you're being hit by snow, rain, and all that. And before the 4 years elapse, you actually die. So you're going to die having lived a miserable life where you are. And then on top of that, you've even died before you get to that same house that you were trying to put up. So personally, I would really say that enjoy life. Yeah. Live comfortably where you are, but try to strike a balance. Yeah. Put in something back home, but let it not overpower or overrain what you're putting in where you are. Because I would feel bad if you have a family and you're denying your family from certain things in life. For example, if you have children, you can't take them to Disneyland or you can't take them for trips during summer because you are sending all the money back home. That to me is just, no, it's not okay by me.
Yes,
so,
thank you so much, Samantha. To you watching us about that paradox of immigration, you may feel free to share your thoughts on it at any point during the show. I realize that we've almost gone past the planned time, but I always believe that the need prompts the inputs. I believe in as much as we've slightly gone over the time, but whatever has been discussed is something very timely and very paramount in this aspect. To you who has just joined us, we have with us Dr. Robert Rutaya. He's a Ugandan resident he's a Ugandan residing in Manchester. On the advert, we kept on mentioning London, but I was just corrected before the show that he lives in Manchester. So he's an expert in psychiatry and also has a range of experience in, I would just say gynecology. There is that other term I didn't pick very well. I don't want
to bite your tongue.
Yes, I don't want to claim to know it all. I'll say gynecology, what a layman perceives very easily. So he has a range of experience. He has also worked and lived in Poland. He's currently living in Manchester. I've registered London, living in Manchester for now over 20 years, as much as I knew. So as we speak of mental health, particularly anxiety, we are speaking with an expert. We may give opinions or we've heard people say, but he's speaking from an informed and factual perspective. We are nearing the end of the show. I want to applaud you all who spare time to watch these shows. Rizik Topaz in Norway, I've seen Irene Visaso, and many others I may not have seen. I want, on a local scale, I want to send greetings to you, fellow Ugandans in Norway, who are currently gathered at Frogner Parken. There is a friend who has a Kasiki. So there is a Kasiki somewhere, somehow. So away from this serious life, we also have, some social life. So people are chewing life, and I hope I also join them after this. So as we wind up, Dr. Rutaya, I realized that we interrupted you in all the other. I wonder if you had covered all you had prepared. Let me give you the platform.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we pretty much covered everything. I just wanted to just summarize. Yeah, being here is quite challenging for everyone, whichever way you came here from abroad, I mean, from your countries, you will have challenges here and there, but it's the way you think about them. If you think positively, you bring a lot of misery out of your way and lower your levels of anxiety. One of the things which you touched there was exercise. Most of us, especially Africans, we tend to not care about this, but exercise is a major thing in terms of helping people who are anxious. It does not only distract you from the problems around you, but it increases your serotonin, which helps with bringing you happiness and also releasing anxiety. So I recommend people to do exercise. You don't have to go to the gym. Just run around your block 2 times and come home. That's enough. You don't have to weigh weights and all that, break your arms and things like that, but just do simple things every day. Try to do some kind of exercise that will help to bring down the anxiety. The other thing we recommend people is breathing. If you can have 3 minutes of breathing in, hold your breath and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then breathe out and hold your breath again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then breathe in. If you can do that for 3 minutes, the fact that you're doing that, one, you're distracting, you're stopping your mind from thinking about whatever problems they are. And secondly, you are, by holding the breath, you are actually triggering a certain nerve which reduces the heartbeat, and your palpitations kind of calm down. It's a very successful method we use. It's been used for a long time, and it has helped people who are anxious. Other people who are very anxious, we give them a rubber band. So you have a rubber band and you keep snapping it on your hand. By snapping it, it's actually telling you, hey, you're still here, you're alive, stop being taken up by all your thoughts. So it brings you back to feeling yourself, because most of people who are anxious stop feeling themselves, they stop feeling the food they eat, they stop seeing the beauty around them, So these are the things we need to go back to. The last thing I wanted to touch on was CBT, which is cognitive behavior therapy. So that's the circle I showed you, whereby you have cognition, the way you think, and then you have what you think, the thought, and what you feel, and then the behavior. So what cognitive behavior therapy deals with is it asks you to write down all your negative thoughts. Whatever negative thoughts you have, write them down. Anything that stops you from function normally. For example, I believe I'll never be rich. I believe I can't make it in education. I believe my dad told me I'll never be successful in football, things like that. And once you put them down, then on the other side, you start picking one of those hot thoughts and making a list of true and false. So, for example, if it is, I'll never be a doctor, maybe. The question's now true, of course. I had that from Sami. So you put questions around why, for example, is there anything that can, do I have the books to read? Then you put yes or no. Yes, I can get the books. Right. Do I have the time to read the books? Yes, I can find the time. You tick yes. So by the time actually you put down all these questions, by the time you end, after all, there have to be about 10 or 15 questions. You realize that the anxiety around not having or becoming a doctor has actually reduced. And you start actually facing it now positively, and you manage to get through. And that's the process CBT uses to treat people with anxiety.
Amen, Doc.
Samantha is already treated now, so.
Oh my God, I need inspiration on that one. Maybe I'll be the next doctor.
Dr. Otaya.
Yes.
Let me ask you this on air to be sure.
Yeah.
I hope you're not sending us an invoice for because we feel this should be paid, knowledge paid for. So just assure us on air that you're not sending us an invoice. Because actually, but I really commend you for this kind of presentation, because it's really I must say timely. Of course, always any lectures or presentations about mental health are timely, but this very one, I know there is a viewer out there, because you're really using practical cases. You've also used your personal experience somehow. The young girl you talked about, this paper bag first aid, you're really doing wonders. I must commend you for that. Yes, just wanted to keep in with that. Please go on.
Oh, you want me to go on? Okay, yeah. All right. Yeah. Yes. So these are the things we now, for those who have passed the 6 months and they are struggling. Of course, these kind of things I'm talking to you on them by themselves are not going to help. So that's when the medication kicks in. We have different kind of medication we can give people. One of them is propranolol, because propranolol is a beta blocker. It's meant to be for the heart, but we use it because it is not addictive. So what propranolol does is reduce the heartbeat, and we use that to control anyone who is in anxiety, because the main thing people with anxiety come with is palpitations. So by giving them propranolol, you're actually forcing the heart to calm down, and that will give them some kind of tranquility. So this medication out there to help you if you are struggling over 6 months. But if you can help yourself with this, then that will be good. Now, what we do also, as I said, medication is not the only solution, is to add in all these things I've told you, CBT. There are different types of therapies we can help you with. Those who have PTSD, this is the hardest one to treat, because they've come from war-zone areas where they have witnessed lots of trauma, people being killed, people cutting off their heads. And these are things, images which stay in your head. And even though you've come here, they keep flashing back, and they wake you up in the night, you can't sleep, you have sleepless nights, you are on the tiptoe, AG all the time. So these kind of people have to have some kind of special treatment and put them on medication. But the main treatment for them is called eye movement desensitization repossessing. Repossessing is a very difficult word. It's EMDR. You can Google it. That process is done by, of course, therapists who know what they're doing. And you can't do it on your own. So that one I would recommend, just read about it. In case you have PTSD, please don't sit down with it, go out for help. So that's my general take on this. Any questions?
Yes, Doctor, I want us to use the strategy of leaving people wanting. Because I know there is, while captioning this show, we put episode 1, because we know this is a very broad topic. Yes, but at least we've had what I would call a sneak peek of what of a big block. So, and I know in as much as it's been short or long, there is something one should take home, I believe. And I want us to hold it here for now. Yeah, I'll get back to you, Doctor, to give your closing remarks to you. If you are watching us there, this is only episode 1. This is a very broad topic. Because as I speak, I know there are a couple of aspects which you've hinted on that have prompted questions. The questions may not now, maybe after, when someone has digested all you've talked about. We shall leave this open and set for another session where we shall request you to spare your dear time to come and share, encourage our viewers. And I'm also glad that as you're giving out bread, you've started from within. Samantha, from the body language, you can tell it all that she's very geared up and encouraged. To you watching us, just for a record, Samantha is not a guest. I saw a comment here from Irene Visaso where she said, I agree with our guests. We live once, so self-love is important. Samantha is a host on Euroforum. She's actually here by virtue of the fact that she's a nurse, a lady who has different perspectives about this topic of anxiety. So she has been complimenting both myself and the guests to have this show well, very inclusive and interactive. So Nyabo, tewekwe kambagenyi. Yes, but I see you're burning with some sort of input. Please go ahead.
It's actually not input, yeah, it's a final question to our doctor. There's a question that came in here that how can policymakers and organizations address the unique anxiety triggers faced by African immigrants and promote their mental well-being? How can policymakers and organizations address the unique anxiety triggers faced by African migrants and promote their mental well-being?
Yeah, so policymakers, that's a very valid point. Because what happens is everything starts with research, you know. Once they do a research and they find out that like 50% or 40%, that's really a high percentage of immigrants are suffering with anxiety while they're in a certain detention or in a certain situation, that has to be addressed by whoever is presenting it to places like parliaments or policymakers. If we pick it up in as medics, as people working in hospitals, we raise it as an issue, and then it goes to a level where it is then addressed to the government that this is an issue. You need to find ways to bring this down. And that's when they come in with more money to facilitate places of detention by providing, you know, therapists to such places or psychiatrists to such places, more support and service around it. So policymakers, that's when they come in, because they have to provide funding for it. Once it's what's the right word they use when people go and bring in stuff in parliaments? It's a word they use, but I've forgotten it. But once it's introduced and accepted, then the policies kick in. Most of these things have for example, let me give you an example. In UK, they were ignoring drug addiction. And what happened? Around, I think, 2000 something, 2004 something, the prisons got so filled up by only drug addicts, because they are the ones, they were going out and just committing crime to get money to buy the drugs. So they ended up being in prison. So they were becoming so many that the prison couldn't handle them. So they had to bring it to the parliament and create a legislation around it to help the criminal justice manage this. And what they've done is they have put more money into the mental health to actually take on these people so that they're not put in prisons, but they are taken into rehabilitation centers and also detox centers to take them off street drugs on condition that they are working with the organizations, and hence they won't end up in prison again. So they come out with orders to keep them. So this, yeah, it can be made in a policy. Yeah. That's in short, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yes, thank you so much, Doctor. There is also a question from Wes Annington. He says, I've heard of some family planning methods in women which cause high blood pressure and anxiety. How true is this?
Okay, so she's talking of HRT, hormone replacement therapy, I'm thinking. Is it what she's talking about? What was the question again?
No, he wasn't specific, but he only said that he has heard of some family planning methods in women which cause high blood pressure and anxiety. And he's wondering how true that is.
Of family planning. Okay, so family planning, she's talking of anti-contraceptives. Anti-contraceptives are right now very controversial drugs in terms of helping women. And my personal advice is to avoid them if you can. If you can't avoid them, try to avoid them, because they come with side effects. And some side effects are quite detrimental for women. So all medication you take, whether it's paracetamol or penicillin, it will come with a side effect. And it depends on what medication she's talking about. They could be that specific.
Doctor, when you recommend that they should avoid contraceptives, and you in a way opening channels for more anxiety and stress when people get huge families they can't support.
There are other ways of controlling birth rate than contraceptives.
Yes, doctor. I'm one of them that has never used family planning. And I have one kid. Yes.
Okay, Samantha, now I know. Okay. Yes, go ahead, doctor.
So the other ways, to avoid them if you feel they're going to affect you in a way, and if they have actually affected you in the past, you can avoid them and still stay safe. So for those who they are working, because some people when they take them they get high blood pressures, they get what's called DVTs and stuff, and they have to come off them,
Some of them put on a lot of weight, doctor, as well.
Yes, a lot of weight. All of them come with different side effects. So anxiety could be also one of them. Triggers of anxiety all of a sudden. People react different to medication. And this is what happens to some medication. Out of the blue, someone becomes anxious, even if it's not even mentioned in the side effects of the drug. So if you can avoid I'm a doctor myself, and I avoid all types of medication if I can. If you can avoid medication, avoid it. And how do we avoid medication? Keeping ourselves healthy, eating good food, keeping exercise every day,
Drinking a lot of water.
Yeah, drinking a lot of water. Looking after yourself. These are the things you do, and that will keep you from actually ending up using this medication, to keep your life going. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Doctor. To you, Huntington West, I don't know if this was planned, but it so happens that the doctor we're seeing here is a 2-in-1. He's an expert in psychiatry, but he's also a gynae. So this question lands exactly in his field. I'm glad that you people on social media bring these kind of questions that make the show more interactive and educative. I'll read one comment here before I request you, Samantha, to give your last remarks about this topic. Rizik Topas, a lady living in Norway, says, we live in a world of comparison, expectations, and fitting in. Many want to fit in both according to themselves and others. The feeling if not fitting in is one of the biggest source of anxiety. We live differently and some only have that one basket. Life can start anywhere and at any time. It's all about balancing and choosing you no matter what. What a comment. Thank you so much, all you watching and interacting on Facebook. I encourage you to keep on sharing this content, more so after you watching it and feeling that it's worth passing it on. If you don't feel that it's worth passing it on, don't share it. But I doubt there is no one, there is no one who won't share it on. Nyabo Samantha. Your last remarks.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Lutaya. Once again, I should say I have learned a lot, and I'm more knowledgeable than I was before the show started. So a special thank you to you. My last remarks simply go out to our viewers. As human beings, let's all try to live positive. And how do we do that? Try to avoid negativity. I'm a person that loves positivity, and I try to avoid negative energy. Usually, if I know that somebody brings that bad or negative vibes towards me, then I try to avoid them. Try to eat healthy. I know we Africans do not have a culture of eating, like eating salads. Like personally, before I came to Finland, I should say that I used not to eat salads. I used to regard them as food for poor people. Whenever my mom made those greens, I hear gobe, I hear what, I'll be like, Mommy, no, I just want to eat beef or chicken, So I used not to eat that. So when I got here, that's when I got introduced to eating healthy. And now at least I eat a meal, at least one meal or two meals a day, plus greens or salad, on top of that. So we should learn to eat healthy, and then also try so much, like we mentioned earlier, try so much to involve, exercise as part of your routine. Let it be your daily routine. It could be a walk, go out for an evening walk or an afternoon walk. Even if it's 10 to 30 minutes, it quite, to our body or health. And then lastly, yes, like the doctor advised, try to be anti-medicine, try to be anti-tablets. Personally, I'm the type that I try to endure pain as much as I can. Let's say monthly pain whenever we have our periods, many women love to take painkillers and all that. But personally, I'm the type that would rather take tea. I take hot tea and then try to endure. I go walking and then I'll try to, like flex and all that. But all I'm trying to say is try to avoid, that addiction of taking drugs every now and then, because the more you do, the more your body actually acquires the resistance. Yeah. So that's it.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Spot on.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Sami. It could not be put any better than that. Dr. Altaya, your last remarks. We've had We had a starter, main course, and may you please bless us with a dessert as we wind up.
Yeah, I'm very blessed to be here, just to share with you what we've discussed. It's eye-opener to some of us, even to me, some of the things I've learned as well. So I'm more than glad to come back and continue discussing different things regarding mental health. There's a lot of mystery in mental health, things which happen, which you can say, how did that happen? Is that possible even? But can discuss those things, and you come to know them as well. I thank you, Moses and Sunny, for bringing me onto this program, and I hope God blesses you in whatever you do, that this continues to be helpful to everyone. Thank you very much.
Amen.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Altaya. After the closing remarks, usually it's only professional and respectful that I don't ask someone any other question. But I felt this would be a bit tricky, not pushing it to the next show.
Okay.
Dr. Altaya, we didn't go religious, but I'm privately informed that you're a Seventh-day Adventist.
Yes.
As we discuss anxiety, pressures, we have different branches that mount pressure on us. The Seventh-day Adventist standard, which I also believe in, is that on Saturday there should be no work. So culture, religion, and social pressures, these things mount pressure on people. So you, a Seventh-day Adventist, how do you manage to navigate through the European structures where we work from Monday to Sunday and things like that?
Yeah. So as Seventh-day Adventists, we have the commandment of the Sabbath, which tells us to keep the Sabbath holy, and we have 6 days to work and the 7th day to rest. And it's part of our worship, and by keeping it, we are following the commandment of God. Now, at the same time as we're doing that, we also follow what Jesus did and what example he left. When Jesus was here, the Pharisees challenged him when he tried to heal someone on Sabbath. And he told them, look, it's better to do good on the Sabbath than evil. So by healing this person on Sabbath, he was actually doing good. And there were also questions: if you have your animal which has fallen in a ditch, do you leave it because it's Sabbath? No, that animal needs life. You need to help it. So you are doing good. So as long as you're doing good, my belief is whatever you're doing is acceptable, whether it's on Sabbath or not. Now, the big question is, as a doctor, should I then electively decide to work on Sabbath because I'm doing good? I wouldn't say so, because if I have anyone to replace me and do the same thing I was going to do, I would definitely go for that option. And that's what I'm doing now, because there are other doctors who have decided to work on Saturday because they're from different religions. For them, it's okay. I've opted out from working on Sabbath. But having said that, as I was training, all along as I was training, I had a duty as a trainee to care for people. I couldn't say no. I want coming to help ill people because it was my Sabbath. I felt that was actually wrong to do. So I used to come in. So with that said, my stand is, if you're out there helping people and you're doing good on the Sabbath, Jesus says, yes, go ahead. If you're out there doing money, just working for money, then that is the wrong attitude, because you're actually working to achieve something. Having said that, I'll go back to working to help others. On these days, I was working to help others. Every sum of money which was paid to me was put to church or to help others. I didn't, use it as a benefit to do anything. So these are the things which you put in place really to check your conscience of what you're doing. If you feel what you're doing is actually trumping on the Sabbath, then you should stop, because that's what the commandment says. But if you see it's helping, especially in health, then I would recommend, yes, you do it, but not for money.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Rutaya. As I asked this question, one, I'm also a Seventh Adventist. Probably you are speaking to me. Two, as I'm addressing Seventh Adventists, I'm also addressing some other religion here and there. There may be different taboos and limitations here and there. But as we discuss mental health and anxiety and pressures, we cannot overlook such aspects where we are held onto our cultural, religious sentiments and beliefs that we carry with us to these foreign countries that are determined so much on how we live and how we do things. And before we know it, there is so much pressure coming from how we've grown up seeing things, what the Holy Book suggests, and things like that. But I'm glad to have your honest and balanced opinion. Probably somewhere, somehow, someone could borrow a leaf in a way or the other. We shall sign out for now. It's been Moses Mugisha with my co-host, Samantha Elf, living in Finland. Our guest, Dr. Robert Rutaya, living in Manchester, who has shared with us a series of aspects in line with mental health. Like he's pledged, we shall be hosting him again someday to come in July. And next Sunday, we shall have a show in line with entertainment, and that will be hosted with our other host, Smogy John Remy, living in Denmark. We want to encourage you and request you to please follow our pages on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Euroforum is our platform, but in the broader aspect, it is your platform, because we work to serve you and to serve the common good. We appreciate you and sign out for now. Bye-bye.
Be blessed. We love you. Bye.
God bless. God bless.